And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Jason Shafton. Jason, thanks for spending some time with me today.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much, Michael.
Well, you're welcome. It's going to be a fun conversation. Jason's got a very varied background. He's helped a lot of companies grow, companies you are going to know as he mentions them if he does. Now he's focused on helping tech companies grow through marketing strategy, different things. So it's going to be a fun conversation, and we're gonna tap into all of that, but we're also going to tap into the aspect of balancing family in all of that when you're building such a successful career and helping lots of people. So Jason, let's just jump into the diving board and ask, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
I'd love to tell you it was some sort of master plan, but it isn't.
That would be a
I'm a
lie.
combination of luck and timing and privilege and all sorts of good stuff. So, Midwestern kid, grew up outside of Chicago, went to school at the University of Wisconsin, studied marketing. Mom, art teacher, dad, kind of marketing and sales executive. So that's where I got the marketing idea from. Made my way to the West Coast to work for Google. The reason I got a job there is I applied to be assistant to the founders, Larry and Sergey, back in 2006. And they called me and said, not Larry and Sergey, just the recruiter called me and said, you're not qualified for this job. You've never been an executive assistant before. What are you doing? But you'd be great for this other thing. So I got a job working on Google AdWords at the time. And the rest is history. Got to work on amazing things at Google, launching Google Music and Google Play. Made my way to New York, where I led marketing at Comedy Central. Also happened to know somebody that worked at Viacom at the time. That's how I got introduced to that business. And then came back to the West Coast, this time Los Angeles, where I'm based now. Co-founded a Dr. House Call app called Heal. Built that business. We raised a ton of money, scaled that all over the country. People, like, you would get an Uber, you got a doctor to come to your house. Pretty cool. And then left Heal to be chief marketing officer of Soothe, which is kind of similar, a business that was doing on-demand massage therapy. So you get a massage therapist to come to your house and give you a massage or give you a couples massage with your partner. And then after Soothe, I ran growth and marketing at Headspace, the meditation app. And around that same time, my wife and I got pregnant with our now 4-year-old daughter. I got a job at a big healthcare company running a kind of a startup within that business. And at that same time, a bunch of the investors and founders and folks I'd worked with over the years kept calling me and saying, hey, can you help me with growth and marketing? And that's how I fell into Winston Francois, which is the thing I do full time now. I help companies grow, and I lead this really talented team of growth and marketing experts who really understand how to set a growth strategy, identify the opportunity, and then build growth programs to achieve that success. So whether that's growing revenue, acquiring new customers, telling really great stories. We get to work with inspiring founders and investors and brands every day doing that.
How fun.
Yeah.
What a neat path, bouncing from coast to coast to coast. And yeah, finding opportunity where a lot of people would have found closed doors or something. So kudos to you. Let's talk about growth. That's really interesting the way you just did it, because I mean, I work with a lot of business owners and things, and they all focus on growth with top line revenue. That's where they are focused, which I mean, it's an important number, but you just mentioned other areas of growth as you work with tech companies. It seems like primarily, right, but the principles I find for tech companies and things, it trickles down, right? We're going to
Sure.
all learn. When you talk about helping companies grow, what are some of the challenges or bottlenecks that you find companies are struggling with, that you and your team are able to help them just kind of open up and go, okay, here's where the accelerator is.
One of the best things about technology is it democratizes access to things. It makes it really easy to do anything. The web, the internet, now AI make us all more capable of doing amazing things. And oftentimes I see people being held back by their own fear or discomfort or just being unsure of what to do next. And so a lot of what we do is come in and help lead the way and provide the best practice, the approach that's working right now, what is kind of the thing to do in growth and marketing. But to get specific with you for a moment, a lot of companies just don't start with first principles thinking. That's a big thing that comes from the tech world, which is like distill things down to their fundamentals. So when we think about marketing and sales and growth, it's really what are we selling, who is it for, and why should they care? Answer those three questions, and then you have the beginning of a growth strategy. So
Yeah.
really important to have a great product. I see a lot of companies trying to sell and market stuff that isn't ready, doesn't have what we call product market fit. So that's hard. It's really hard to get people to buy something that they're
Right.
not gonna love.
Yeah.
Uh, but when somebody does love something, think about the first time you used Uber, or the first
Yeah.
time that you used Google. Like these foundational things that we just take it for granted every day were not so much 15, 20 years ago, and they've transformed the way we live and operate. And so when you have product market fit, so
Yeah.
that's the product is the first, and the second thing is knowing your user, your customer. Eric Schmidt, the kind of adult supervision CEO at Google, once said, "Focus on the user, and all else will follow."
Yeah.
Um, and I think understanding your customer and your user really, really well, and making sure that you make things for them and that you're talking to them. A lot of business owners I talk to, and entrepreneurs, they don't talk to customers. They
Yeah.
don't interview them. They don't try to understand what their needs are, what jobs they need done for them that they could hire your product or service to do. So
Mhm.
understanding the customer is paramount. And then finally, why should they care? I think is something that's where most folks actually fall down, because we're all consumers, so we all think we're great marketers, but
Yeah.
actually great marketing is few and far between. We can see examples of it. And so you look at like companies like Nike and Apple that have built some of the most successful brands in history, and there's a simplicity and a beauty to the things that they do, and you think, oh, that's really easy. Actually, it's really hard. It's addition by subtraction. It's a tremendous amount of work that goes into moving all of the noise and the garbage and all the extra words and imagery and saying something really simple, like 1,000 songs in your pocket when they released the iPod. Wow. Right? How do you do that for your product or service? We help companies think about how to do that.
That's very cool. I love what one thing you said, and I want to come back to it. Making things for them and talking with them and really you used an example, and I was thinking of Apple, and you talked about the guy at Google who said it, but I heard somebody say that Steve Jobs one time said, if you start with the customer experience and work backwards,
Yep.
that's how you do it. You don't create your thing and say, here's my thing, you're going to love my thing. But that's
Right.
where business owners are, because we love our thing.
Yeah.
How do you get how do business how do you shift that? Do you go out and do surveys of clients if it's a new service, like your massage thing? Did you go out and survey people, or how'd you?
Yeah. So I wasn't there at the inception of the massage company Soothe, but I was there at the beginning of Heal, and we
Okay.
absolutely did talk to families. So we started on the west side of Los Angeles, 2015, and as we were coming out of the initial seed financing round in 2014 and beginning to build the first version of the product and understand what we needed, we were talking to parents, and we were asking them, okay, what do you need to take care of your family? What would be helpful? Our first marketing was showing up at the Brentwood Farmers Market in Los Angeles and talking. I was standing next to a doctor of ours, one of our Heal doctors, and giving out free hand sanitizer and talking to people that would be our first customers and patients. That's how we got our first 100 people to use the thing. And it was because we tried to understand, where are they? Where do they show up in the world? What do they need?
Mm,
And then, zooming back out and thinking about that at a larger scale, we often help companies that we work with just do user research. So qualitative and quantitative surveying, focus grouping, interviews, much like what we're doing right now over a Zoom. You can talk to somebody halfway around the world and show them a product and get their feedback on it and make improvements based on that. And they'll also tell you where they hang out online and offline, so you can think about where you would want to advertise or market to them so that you actually can get this product in front of people that actually would want it.
yeah, yeah, and so we'll dive a little bit deeper, because I think this is a really good rabbit hole. You said something earlier as well, is when you're talking with people and you're working with your clients, listening for what they want and need and would be willing to pay you to do
Yep.
for them. Right? And so many times in business, I know I've been guilty of this early on in our company. Somebody would say, "Hey, Michael, this sounds great, but I need this," and it's a marketing thing, right? I need a landing page and an email funnel up. I'm like, "Well, that is so great. I don't do that." And after about the fourth or fifth person said that to me, I'm like, wait a minute. If that's what they want, maybe I should figure out how to deliver it to them and combine it with my offering. Is I mean, it can it sometimes be that simple if we just our clients are probably saying things to us. We're just not listening because we're so focused on our thing. Is that
Yes. I think there's a certain amount of navel gazing that happens when you make something. And of course, like nobody wants to think their baby's ugly,
yeah.
right? And so it's important to set aside your feelings and try not to take anything personally that someone tells you about a product that you've built, even though you've poured your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and
Yeah.
they might not care at all. I once met with a founder, very successful guy, inventor, sold his company to a really big technology company, and I had breakfast with him, and I was giving him feedback about the product, and I kind of said, when are you kind of gonna make this change? I think this version's a little bit ugly, and he was super offended, and he said, nobody wants to hear you call their baby ugly. And I thought it was an eye-opening experience for me. This was many years ago, but he went on to sell his company for 10 figures to a big tech company, and he did just fine. And so it didn't matter that his baby was ugly, and my
That's
feedback
right.
didn't matter at all. But I think it's important that even the people who are most successful don't, and sometimes like they're right and we're wrong. I think the people, the greatest founders, creators, inventors can see around corners, can see the future, and know things that are coming and are going to happen that we can't expect or predict. And so sometimes the customer is wrong, and something that they're going to want before they know that they need it or want it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that comes down to your first principles thinking. One of the marketing guys that I followed him for years, Roy Williams. He always talks about the tugs of war in marketing, and one of them is time versus money. And in America, we tend to, if I had a choice, I'm going to save my time, and I'm happy to pay more for something because of that tug of war. But that's first principles thinking. Do you find things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fascinating to me how sometimes people will do things that are economically irrational. If you ever read Freakonomics, there's lots of great examples. One of my favorites is going looking at the Costco gas line. So it might be 10, 20 cents cheaper per gallon, but you might sit in that line for 30 minutes waiting to fill up your car.
Right,
What is that 30 minutes worth? How much is your time worth?
right.
We as a society in Western society trade our time for money. We go to work and we get paid an hourly wage. I think the people that have unlocked, really limitless earning potential are the ones that trade money for more money and create passive income streams and do things that are, around. I think you work in kind of this space as well, right? Like if you write a book and you sell copies of that book, you're not writing each copy of that book. That book is getting printed and you're earning residuals and royalties and making money from every copy you sell, and that's a passive income stream. And I think, as humans, the more we can do to create, to buy our own time back,
Yes.
the better off we will be. And I see that with AI happening. I see this with humanoid robots happening. Like there's a future here where there's one or more robots for every human, and they're running
Right.
AI and they're doing our dishes and our laundry and our, and kind of basic tasks. And so we're able to maybe level up and do more sophisticated, creative, and leisurely things with our time, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very much so that you're probably too young for this, but the Jetsons, right? The
I
cartoon
know the
Jetsons.
Jetsons. I'm older than you think.
But Rosie was the robot that came around, and I'm like, Rosie's not too far away. Rosie's pretty just right around the
Yeah.
corner, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And in all of our businesses, I think it's a, and I'd love to dive into this a little bit. It's a matter of thinking. And so many times I'm around entrepreneurs who for some reason they have limited their thinking. It's like they've checked out because they are like locked in, and they're not taking in new information or embracing technology and things, even though they may not understand it. They're not putting themselves around other people who are thinking at a higher, different, better level. How important is that when you think about growth for a company in coming in?
Yeah. Uh, I like the saying, you're the average of the five people you spend the majority of your time with, right? So
Mhm.
I think surrounding yourself with really smart, capable people is a good start. And then to bring it back to how you grow a business, a brand, a company, it's about putting together a team that's passionate. You got to remember that as the founder, entrepreneur, creator, you're always going to have more drive and more skin in the game than the people that you hire to help you. And
Right.
so one of the best things you can do is figure out what motivates people and incentivize them to support your idea and make it happen. That sometimes is money, but sometimes, I think about love languages, words of appreciation, like, "Hey, great job! That was a really awesome thing you did," can go a long way. And so building a team. I was fortunate to work at Google many years ago for a long time, and just worked with some of the smartest people I've ever met. And
Hmm.
to be in a room and always feel like the dumbest person in the room was cool.
That's a
And
good
I
place to
think you
be.
surround yourself with smart people, give them lots of reasons to believe in whatever it is that you're creating, and work together towards a common goal. Those are all the formative and best experiences of my life.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about life. That's a good transition. Let's talk a little bit about balancing
Yeah.
life and
Yeah.
family and business. What have you learned? What have been some of your challenges? What have you learned to give some cadence to the world? Because yeah,
Yeah.
money and success and growth is important, but
Yeah.
what have you learned?
Yeah, I've learned a lot and I've got a lot left to learn. I'm a late to the parenthood game. I have a 4-year-old and a 4-month old, and my wife and I started a podcast called Frank Growth, which tackles a specific question, which is how do you grow a business and grow a family and build a strong, relationship in spite of all of those things and all of the competing. And you want to talk about tug of war, that's having kids and jobs and all the things that go into that. So I'm certainly no expert, but what I've seen in the conversations we've had with people we've interviewed is the couples that have made it through and been successful in life and in business are really good at playing to each other's strengths
Hmm.
and finding the kind of complementary things that they each do and can be responsible for, and kind of doing the dance between, hey, I'm going to cover today because you're not feeling 100%. You're only at 50% and I'm at 80%, so I'm going to take the lead on this thing. It's being able to make those hard decisions around prioritization. My wife talks about the glass balls and the rubber balls and juggling, and some balls are glass. Like, you can't drop
Yeah.
that one. That's your relationship with your kids. So
Yeah.
you don't want to screw that up. And but that one's rubber. It's your 9 to 5 corporate job, and like they're gonna, you're gonna call in sick today. The job's gonna be there tomorrow. And so figuring out what is flexible and what isn't is essential, I think, in like a really healthy dynamic in a relationship. And then the other thing that we do on our show that's really fun with couples is we ask them at the end, what is something that they recently, that their partner did that they really admire that recently happened. And you get these little stories and they're not aware that they did this thing and they tell each other. And so, I love how much, like right now we have a 4-month old who doesn't sleep through the night. And so my wife is the one waking up, multiple times through the night to take care of the baby and lets me sleep. Like that is a gift. And
Yes.
when she does that, so this morning at 5 a.m. when the baby was up and she was done and she was exhausted, and I reached over to kind of like gently rub her back in bed, she said, "Do not touch me. Go get the baby." And like, I get it. I get it.
In
And
there.
it's
Yep.
totally fair.
Yep, absolutely. It's so funny. My wife would say the same. So I've got 4 kids and two are
Yep.
grown out of the house. I got two teenagers, and I'd come home from work years ago, and I'd walk in, and my wife would look at me. And she's like, same word. Don't touch me. I've had these Klingons on me all day long, and I don't need one more. I was like, wow. So I learned that was like tag. You're it, Dad,
Yeah.
and I had to come in and do my thing. But that is such great wisdom to go. I'm here to
Yeah.
serve and take a
Yeah.
burden off you.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good. My wife and I don't know if you and your wife are this way. So we're complete opposites, Jill and I. We've taken all the personality. We are complete opposites.
Yep.
And at first in our marriage, I looked at that kind of as a bad thing. I was like, man, that's like oil and water. And it's
Yep.
just they separate. And over years, we've been married since 1990, so a long time. We have become complete opposites, like a hand in a glove,
Yep.
that work really well together because we've learned what you just said. And I think for entrepreneurs, for everybody, but for entrepreneurs, you've got to understand your mate and how do we work together and how do I, yeah. There are a
Right.
few glass balls, you're right, but I think usually there are fewer glass balls than what we would like to think. And it's that appointment with that client is probably a rubber ball, honestly.
Yep.
If I need to go care for my wife and my kids, it's that prioritization, it's the understanding, it's the thinking that putting yourself around people like Jason and his team, you're going to learn not just about growth and company and building and all of that. You're gonna get the DNA of who they are, because you're going to be surrounded by people who've built companies, who've been at dare I say the top of the game with the top companies, and are building great, strong families. And that's the DNA I love to be around. So well done, man. I love that. I'm sure you and I could talk for a really long time about business, but family and that integration and that combination of, you take that part away from you, think about the hollowness of all that you do. And it's possible, and I love that you bring this, it's possible to have both. It takes intentionality, it takes purpose, but well done. Well done. Well, Jason, man, we could talk for a long time, and I know that you help a lot of tech companies grow and do some really cool things. If somebody's out there, they're just scratching their head and they're going, man, this is intriguing, it's interesting. I might want to put Jason in my circle. How do they find you and learn more about you and who you work with?
Yeah, absolutely. So they can visit us online at wf.team/pod. That's wf.team/pod. And feel free to fill out our form, book a free 15-minute call with me and learn more. I'm happy to help. And you can find me on social media. Feel free to message me. I'm at Jason Shafton on most places. And then our Winston Francois social accounts are at WF Does Growth. So reach out, come chat with us, see if we can help you. And if we don't have the right answer, we'll certainly connect you with somebody who does.
That's awesome, man. It's been great, Jason, talking with you and just unpacking it a little bit about growth and in marketing and understanding our customers and how important it is to listen to them, to go talk with your customers and learning about surveys. And just I love how you started that one company and just standing there talking to people. It's like, good golly, that's like old fashioned, man. Does that really work? And it does, because we hear what our clients need, and then we can pivot our product service to meet that need. And it's amazing when you do that, how much growth you're going to see. So well done there. Well done growing your family. Thanks for being my guest on Expert Speak.
Thank you.